We're familiar with what mental illness looks like in dramatic and intense cases. But more often than not, it is way more subtle than that. It's invisible, or rather, it is visible, but it presents in ways that we don't know how to interpret. It presents as, the crazy ex-girlfriend, or the super clingy best friend, or the person sitting by themselves at lunch all the time, or, the guy kind of muttering to himself as he walks down the street. People don't know what they're looking for, and that includes people who might be living with mental illnesses themselves, like me. My story is one of subtleties and nuances and things that were not very dramatic, but which felt very, very dramatic at the time. When I say depression, I don't just mean the normal, everyday sadness that we all experience. I had that normal sadness in spades, but I also had a whole bunch of extra sadness that was piled up on top of that. And I was tired all the time, and I didn't eat much, and I was nauseous a lot, and I just had so little motivation, and my self-confidence was lower than low. People often think that if you have depression, you have to literally be sad every day for a certain period of time, but that simply is not the case. Depression comes in waves or in episodes, and it's possible to be positively impacted by positive events in your life or by doing something that you enjoy. And so for that reason, it's super hard to spot because people are looking for something that very rarely actually exists. And it was especially hard to spot for me because I have a type of depression called dysthymia, also known as persistent depressive disorder. And what that is a chronic low-grade form of depression that lasts for many years. Some people have it their whole lives and they don't even know. And that was the case for me up until just a few years ago. It can be so subtle and insidious that it just creeps up on you, and people, including you, just think that that's how you are. I also had social anxiety, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Social situations made me incredibly anxious. And that wasn't just limited to face-to-face interactions. I was also just kind of anxious in terms of my relations with others in general. And so I wouldn't reach out to people. I wouldn't sit beside anybody in class if I could avoid it. I would just sit by myself in a corner. I would go eat lunch, or not even eat lunch because that wasn't allowed in the library. I would just go sit in the library during lunch and starve because I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I was the perfect target because my mental illnesses made it easy for me to believe all the lies, the ones that I was telling myself and the ones that others were telling me. I was openly emotionally vulnerable, whereas my peers were very closed off. There was this thing when I was in high school where it was all the rage to be too cool for everything, including normal human emotions. So that was the kind of thing that I was up against, and I didn't fit in, just on that very basic level. When all my friends stopped talking to me, you would think that I would at least try to talk to one person just to find out what was going on, try and clear up any misunderstandings. But I didn't. I felt so defeated. I was kind of just like, well, guess everyone hates me now. Time to feel sorry for myself for the next 7 years of my life. And looking back, I can see like 85 different things that I could have done. I could have talked to a teacher. I could have talked to a guidance counselor. I could have talked to my parents. I could have talked to other peers in my grade. I could have gone and joined other clubs and activities in my community that had nothing to do with school. I could have tried to make friends at my part-time job. But I didn't do any of those things because my mental illnesses were telling me that those were not options. I was just so exhausted all the time that I didn't have any more emotional energy to expend on making myself even more vulnerable than I already was by trying to change my situation. I would look around at other people and always wonder how they could get so much done in a day and how they had so much energy all the time, but I never would have thought to attribute any kind of medical cause to the way that I was feeling. I just thought that I sucked and would only ever be mediocre in every possible way. And to be quite honest with you, I think that people around me, including my parents, thought that too. Everyone thought that I was just kind of like a shy, weird kid. And the psychiatrist I saw there recommended that I start taking medication. This had been recommended to me before when I was 17, but I refused. I hated the idea of medication. I was terrified of it, and I felt like it should be a last resort. But at this point, I had tried a number of different things. I'd tried seeing different counselors and therapy, and I tried making all kinds of life changes, but clearly nothing was working, or at least not well enough. So I said yes, and I am so glad that I did, because it actually did work. I'm on 300 milligrams of Wellbutrin, and I can tell you that I felt the difference within the first 2 days, which is extremely rare. All of a sudden, everything was sparkly and magical and full of unicorns and ponies, and I loved everyone, and I just had so much energy. It was incredible. I did have some trouble sleeping for the first month or so, but that went away. And there were times that I felt like maybe I should be experiencing more emotion than I was, but I think that that was just the depressive side of me fighting back, saying, no, where are you going? You need to cry about the fact that all your peers are more successful than you and you'll never get married. Where are you going? But 9 times out of 10, my body doesn't listen to that voice anymore. It distracts itself, and it forces me to distract my mind too. When my thoughts start going down an anxious, depressive path, in the beginning, I could literally feel the medication yanking those thoughts away and pushing them down a more positive and rational direction. And it was a super, super weird feeling, but it wasn't a bad feeling. And it was actually that sensation that I think was the most helpful to me out of everything, because when I would feel that happen, it would cause me to take note of that moment, and I would start to learn, okay, here's what my triggers are. Here are the kinds of thoughts that I'm having that maybe aren't quite accurate. I learned how to question my thoughts and almost kind of become my own therapist. I think that medication gets a really bad rap because people don't understand it. And we're always afraid of things that we don't understand. And I get that. Of course I get it. I used to be like that too. It is super hard to understand how a medication that impacts your brain and your thoughts is going to feel and what it's going to do. Now, I thought that it was going to make me numb and turn me into this like weird husk of myself, and it was going to ruin all my creativity, and I wasn't going to think as sharply anymore, and it wasn't going to be me anymore. But in reality, I feel exactly like me, just happier. Having the medication work for me personally felt like a validation, because I always felt like if my life would just suck less, then I'd be fine. But because I responded so well and so quickly to the medication, it became clear to me that it was due to a chemical imbalance all along, even though I was triggered by these negative situations. While I'm doing much better now, I don't consider myself recovered or cured or anything like that. My dysthymia and social anxiety will always be a part of me, regardless of how well I'm managing them at the time. I have a lot more love and resources and opportunities in my life now, but I'm still very insecure. I I still get easily triggered. I'm still really uncomfortable at parties and in large group situations. I still have days where I'm just overwhelmed by apathy and I can't do anything because I can't stop thinking, what's the point of anything? What's the point of life? But I think what gets me through it now is that I've been on this roller coaster for long enough that it's easier for me to tell myself to wait it out when things get bad, because I know that these feelings are temporary. My mental illnesses are not temporary. I will struggle my whole life. But each individual episode is temporary.